a little kicking back.
Yeah.
And
everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, everything's going to be okay. Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah. And, I think that goes back to the legacy of the brands, and, the chocolate that we use is still the original.
Hawaiian Host is one of the most iconic Hawaiian brands, at least that I can think of. When you think of Hawaii and you bring something back from Hawaii, chances are you're bringing back a box of chocolate-covered macadamia nuts. And Keith Sakamoto is the CEO of Hawaiian Host. And this was an on-location conversation that I got to have with Keith at their corporate office in Honolulu. And we talked about leadership, entrepreneurship, and obviously we talked about Hawaiian Host and chocolate-covered macadamia nuts and all about all their amazing products. But what was also cool about this conversation was I got to learn more about how Hawaiian Host is supporting the local people of Hawaii and across the islands. So this is one you're not going to want to miss. Stay tuned. Let's cue the intro.
Aloha. Welcome to Hawaii's Best Podcast. Learn the stories behind Hawaii's best experiences, influencers, and businesses. Discover everything that makes Hawaii the Aloha State. And now your host, Bryan Murphy.
Aloha and welcome back to another episode of Hawaii's Best. You got episode 8. And today we are talking with Keith Sakamoto from Hawaiian Host. And I can't wait for you to hear the rest of that conversation that I got to have with him in Honolulu. At Hawaii's Best, we exist to simply share the best from Hawaii. And we get to hear from people like Keith and other local businesses who are making an impact globally. And also, we get to hear the story and the people behind some of these brands. This conversation with Hawaiian Host was so much fun. I can't wait for you to hear the rest of it. Before we do that, I want to ask you to hit the subscribe button, drop a comment below, leave a review, let us know what you think of the show. And that just helps other people be able to find Hawaii's Best on iTunes, on Spotify, or whatever, to be able to find the show just like you have. So thanks for considering to do that. And right now, we're going to head on over and talk story with Keith Sakamoto from Hawaiian Host. Well, Keith, thanks so much for your time today. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Hawaiian Host?
First of all, I just want to say aloha, Bryan. And it's great to have you here visiting with us in Hawaiian Host in our plant and office. And I'm happy to be talking with you. My name is Keith, and I'm the CEO of the company. And I've been in the CEO seat for it's been since 2011, so just about 8 years.
Okay.
But I've been with the company going back to 1994.
Oh wow!
So almost 25 years.
Yeah,
which is quite amazing to me because it's just really blown by.
Yeah.
But it's been a great experience for me. And, I call myself, when people actually ask me what my title is, I joke about it and I say I'm the person with the thickest skin. Because sometimes that's what the CEO has to be.
Yeah.
But no, it's a great company to work for. We have such tremendous heritage and legacy going back. We trace our roots all the way back to 1927. Mm-hmm. And, the story starts with a small store in downtown Honolulu going back to 1927 called L&I Candies. Eventually, that store moves to Kaimuki to 9th Avenue and Wailai and continues on until into the 60s. In the meantime, in the 50s on Maui, the Takitani family starts to develop chocolate macadamias. And they had a whole business, very entrepreneurial family, a real diversified conglomerate. And I can tell you more about that. But the family started doing this as another part of its business. Then part of the family, one of the next generation, brought the company to Honolulu and then found and acquired L&I.
Oh.
And this was in 1960.
Okay.
And actually, coincidentally, L&I had already been dipping chocolate macadamias going back a number of years. But from Maui, they brought their formula and they created the name Hawaiian Host.
Got it.
And then started out with the product, started selling to tourists. And then this is at the beginning of the jet age, and it just kind of, took off.
Yeah.
Pun intended. Pun intended. But it took off, and with the tourism in Hawaii, and the product took off, and Mamoru Takitani, who was this next generation Takitani who brought it to Honolulu, he was into figuring out business and automation. The expanding the brand name, expanding markets, and eventually built up the company significantly, and to what Hawaiian Host has become in terms of a very well known brand today. Yeah. So that's kind of the short story, a short version of our legacy and our roots.
I love to go back, just maybe briefly. Back in '94, you came on with the company. And love to hear from your perspective, maybe some of the roles that you came on for. And then what has been your experience, now CEO, but working, obviously, there's a lot of loyalty and you're still here. So what has been your experience working with Hawaiian Host?
Yes, I feel very, very fortunate and blessed to have joined this company. I didn't think I would be someplace for 25 years, but it's worked out that way and very happily for me. Originally, my background is in finance, and I actually started as a CPA. I went to the university, going back further. Yeah, I went to the University of Hawaii as an undergrad, got out in accounting, got my CPA, worked for a public accounting firm. It used to be called Coopers & Lybrand, and today it's called PwC, after mergers and so forth. Sure. After 5 years, I figured out that wasn't my life's calling. So then that's why I went to grad school and tried to change my course. Got into finance and investments, stayed in the financial area, found a job, got connected with someone back in Hawaii, and found a job, became a CFO for that company, kind of entrepreneurial, technology, innovation type company, stayed there for 5 years. And then this opportunity came up. But because of what this opportunity offered is what really interested me, because I could get out of the financial area, and it offered me the opportunity to learn about operations, sales and marketing, and all the other things in business that I was actually interested in broadening my background. And after getting into it, I was able to rotate in different areas and learn a lot about the different areas of the company, and got familiar with it. And next thing led to the next thing. Right. Yeah. Just kind of kept progressing in the company. So very, very fortunate with that. And the other great thing is that we operate internationally. So I had a lot of opportunities to actually broaden in that sense too, not just to learn about business, but to learn about a larger part of the world that was kind of beyond Hawaii, and meeting and seeing and experiencing consumers and selling of our product in these different markets, and learned a lot from that too. Yeah,
a lot. We might digress here a little bit, but as you were talking, I was thinking about this leadership, and that's huge on my heart and some of my background. Who are some influencers in your life that you look up to? And because I'm sure coming from the financial world into this really leadership heavy role, who are some people that you look up to or maybe aspire to in leadership?
Yeah, I think the way I would put it is I learned from, all the managers that I had worked with. I learned something from each and every one of them along the way. So, when I started in the accounting firm, we had just a fantastic managing partner, and who I'm still in touch with today. And he's in his mid to late 80s. And he was a great mentor. His philosophy was, to kind of develop people as individuals and to help them along in their careers. So it wasn't necessarily about, hey, I'm just recruiting for my firm and I want you to do this and that for my firm. He was truly interested in you. Yeah. And I think that was something I picked up from him. When I went away to school after I finished for my graduate degree, found a job in New York City and worked for AT&T. And was in the pension fund area, investments, kind of a fun job. But the boss that I had there, was also terrific. And from him, I learned about how to deal with others in a practical way.
Yeah.
And he had a really good style about him and very engaging. But yeah, very good with working with people. I picked that up from him. Came back to Hawaii, worked for an entrepreneur that was really exciting, and we're still very good friends to this day. But he was into technology. I learned about kind of how to start up businesses and pursue new ideas, all the kind of challenges and opportunities that come up with startup experiences.
Yeah.
And then coming to Hawaiian Host, I worked for a couple of CEOs here before I stepped into the seat. And, from each of them, I learned a lot too. And, what those CEOs did too was to take this company through certain periods of change and kind of learned about, the need for change and really the need to open up the next chapter in the book or the history of a company and to take it to the next place, because companies cannot stay the same. They have to grow to sustain and to thrive.
Yeah. Speaking of change and kind of coming back to Hawaiian Host a little bit, as I'm looking at some amazing boxes of chocolates here and chocolate covered macadamia nuts, all different assortments. And that is probably one type of change, product development and testing and all that. In addition to that, what are some other changes, Hawaiian Host has maybe ventured towards or maybe is looking towards currently?
Well, I think, that the business, your business strategy kind of drives a lot and drives change, in terms of the markets you go after and the products that you develop and development of the brand and so forth. But underlying that, you need a group of people to execute the strategy and to make these things happen.
Right.
And to me, that's one of the more fulfilling things to me, to work in and with an organization and to go through the things that we have to do to develop as a group.
Right.
So, it's great when we have new people coming in and then, you see people develop and you see them contributing. And, and I think the other thing that's exciting about change with people, I mean, it's always challenges, but it's such great opportunity to form a team and a kind of a high functioning team is always the goal that you want to strive for. Yeah. And to me, that's exciting and fulfilling.
And it sounds like what you've already kind of mentioned, as you listen and you're constantly learning, that's super important for leadership. How many people are currently employed by Hawaiian Host?
In the overall company, we have about 400.
Wow.
That's mostly in Hawaii.
Yeah.
But we have a group in Los Angeles, and then we also have a smaller group in Tokyo as well.
Okay.
And within Hawaii, we're on different islands as well.
Oh, okay. As far as distribution or factories?
Yes, both actually.
Okay.
But the biggest things in terms of employees are we have a factory here in Honolulu, which is our candy factory for Hawaiian Host chocolates. And then on the Big Island, we have the Mauna Loa company that produces the Mauna Loa products. We also have distributors on islands that we work with.
Yeah.
Also in Honolulu, we have a separate location where we have our sales and distribution operation, basically.
Okay. You mentioned Mauna Loa, and that was acquired in 2015.
In February 2015.
Okay.
Right.
And how has that been? And because both Hawaiian Host and Mauna Loa have such a strong brand. Just walking into any ABC store and you see, boom, right there, front end, both.
Yeah, it's been a tremendous opportunity for us, and it's been a lot of hard work.
I'm sure
to put everything together, but it's well worthwhile. I think that the biggest thing for the board of directors and the executive team of the company was to bring two brands that were born in Hawaii back to Hawaii ownership. So Hawaiian Host has always been under Hawaii ownership. Right. But for Mauna Loa, it left Hawaii ownership for a period of between 1994 until 2015.
Because they started in like 40.
Yeah, it goes back to 1946 or so.
Yeah.
And it was started by a company called Castle & Cook, who coincidentally my dad worked for.
Oh.
Small world. What goes around comes around.
That's good.
But Castle & Cook was acquired by, the macadamia portion was acquired by another local company called C. Brewer, which held the macadamia nut operation for a long time. They changed the brand name to Mauna Loa.
Okay.
And, went on that way. Then in the late 1990s, they sold to, or maybe around 2000, they sold to a venture capital group, which held it for about 3 or 4 years, which then turned around and sold it to Hershey.
Oh.
The Hershey company.
Okay.
And Hawaiian Host had an opportunity to acquire Mauna Loa from Hershey. And bring it back to local ownership. Yeah. And at some point too, I can tell you more about the ownership of Hawaiian Host, because that is tied in to our legacy and the connection with Mauna Loa, Hawaiian Host, and our deep roots in Hawaii.
Maybe you could speak into that a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I can dive into that a bit. Yeah. So the Takitani family and the next generation that brought it to Honolulu that Takitani family did not have any children.
Okay.
So what they decided to do was to basically give the ownership to a trust, which would endure in perpetuity. Mm-hmm. And the beneficiary of that trust is a foundation that they also established to benefit Hawaii kids in the area of education.
Okay.
And so that's what we're tied to this day. We're a company, we operate a business, but it's owned by a trust and for the benefit of the foundation. It's just a fantastic thing because, it ties, our brands are born in Hawaii. We share the experience of our brands throughout the world, but the benefits of that come back to the community in Hawaii. Yeah. And then that community is part of our brand. It's part of a nice cycle of sustainability in its own way.
I love that.
Yeah.
Maybe we can even dive in a little bit further in that, just about supporting local and what are some ways Hawaiian Host does that? I know through this partnership, obviously, is huge, but what are some other ways?
The other ways in which it happens is that we, of course, employ a lot of people in Hawaii.
Right.
The other part of it is that we purchase our main ingredient in Hawaii. So we actually buy macadamias on the Big Island, and we purchase from about 400 farmers.
Wow.
We have 2 processing plants one on each side of the island. So one in Kona and one in Hilo. And basically, most, if not all of the commercial macadamia is grown on the Big Island. That's in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And so we have these 2 receiving and processing plants, and and we feel part of that kind of community as well in terms of extending into the farmers and working with them, because we know that's part of what we do.
I love that. Mm-hmm. Maybe going back to the product a little bit, chocolate covered macadamia nuts, and for me personally, someone would come back from the islands and, you'd be in the break room and there'd be this box of chocolate covered. Oh, you must have, been in Hawaii. Hearing the story behind the brand is so important for people to know, hey, it's more than an amazing product, which is so important. But what would you say in your research and your kind of marketing, what do people love most about Hawaiian Host?
Well, I think that people, when they experience Hawaiian Host, they have this connection back to Hawaii. And many of them have experienced Hawaii. And so what I think it brings back to them is this kind of this rich indulgence and kind of a calming effect in a sense, when you think about Hawaii. And, you talk about the wow factor, but I think it's more the factor where it's kind of
brings you back.
Yeah.
For a minute.
And I think it gives you a sense of, a little kicking back.
Yeah.
And
everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, everything's going to be okay. Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah. And, I think that goes back to the legacy of the brands. And, the chocolate that we use is still the original recipe that goes back to the 1950s.
Yeah.
And we have, that original legacy going back so many years. And then we also have a great group of employees who have just a lot of care. That's the other hidden ingredient, I think, in all of this. I think all of that is connected to and to that ultimate feeling that we hope consumers have when they experience the product.
Yeah. What's your favorite?
My favorite, I have to say, is still the original milk chocolate.
Yeah. Yep.
Covered roasted macadamias. And I like dark chocolate. I still have a sweet tooth. And so I like that, slightly more sweetness of the milk chocolate. And I like the creaminess. And our milk chocolate blend, the one that is our original, goes back to the original recipe. And it's special because of the quality of what we use. So the beans I selected, of course, but one of the secrets is that we use milk crumb in the product. So many milk chocolates today use powdered milk.
Okay.
And so, but we use fresh whole milk that's reduced to a kind of a cottage cheese-like consistency and then dried down further. And that is what gets mixed into the milk chocolate formulation. Then it goes through a heavy conching period, which is basically the refining where the chocolate formula gets pressed between large rollers and just really reduces the graininess into fine microns. And if you eat our chocolate, it's a very fine experience. It's kind of that very smooth and creamy mouthfeel, which I think makes a big difference.
Yeah.
That's why this is still my favorite, the milk chocolate formula. But we, of course, have a lot of variations on that.
Yeah. What's maybe the newest product that you guys maybe are looking towards or released?
Well, what we recently did is we relaunched the original product as what we call the Founders Collection.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So what this does, this is the anchor to our premium line of chocolates.
Sure.
And what it does is it calls out our legacy. So it's named, the Mamoru Takitani Founders Collection. And this is basically, this milk chocolate product is our original formulation that's put in this new package to highlight the legacy. And then along with this, the rest of our premium line has the same Founders Collection theme running through it. So there's the milk chocolate, original milk chocolate product. We've also have a dark chocolate. We have a honey glazed nut that's chocolate covered as well. This one is also one of my favorites.
Yeah.
We have a white chocolate.
Yeah.
We have a matcha covered macadamia nut chocolate product in the Founders Collection line also. And this one would be the newest one in the product line. And this one has actually taken off very well.
Yeah.
So these are the Founders Collection product. They're premium because of not only the chocolate that we use in the formulation, but also these always will have at least one whole nut in the product.
Okay.
Yeah. So the original milk chocolate product has a whole and a half, so you get a half nut bonus.
Gotcha.
That kind of gives a 2-bite experience. But the other products are one whole nut that's chocolate covered. But what that does is it gives you the right combination of nut to chocolate ratio.
Okay.
So you can taste a lot of nut, but it's not, with the chocolate, it's the perfect kind of blend.
Have you seen in different regions where there's a product that does better? Like maybe say for Japan, is there one in Japan or is it mainly the original milk chocolate is pretty much across the board?
No, sure. I think the anchor product has a general popularity across markets and is quite well known across many markets. But having said that, there is variation between taste and appeal of other products in markets. So, you take the matcha, for example. We actually kicked that off several years ago, probably like about 5 or 7 years ago. And of course, the place to launch it is going to be in Japan,
Sure.
because that's where matcha originated. And it did well there. And we tried to introduce it here, but it was a bit early. But when we launched it in the last year and a half or so, we started with a 2-piece offering in kind of a candy bar size.
Yeah.
That did well. So we figured, okay, it's a good time to launch the box product.
Gotcha.
And the box product came out as the Founders Collection.
Okay. Oh,
and
that's smart.
done
So
quite well.
sometimes you'll release a bar before you do like a box.
Yeah, there are different ways of trialing the product. So that's one of them. But there's also, things that may work in one market, but may not work in another market.
Okay.
In this case, it's a nice bridging that came from Japan to the Hawaii market.
Yeah.
And then now matcha is becoming a known ingredient in North America as well.
Yeah.
So I think more and more people know about the ingredients that come from Asia and actually find it quite appealing. I mean, you talk about sushi, all these Japanese foods are getting known, and other Asian foods throughout the country, Korean food, Chinese food has always been around, but there's a growing awareness of Asian tastes, which is why I think the timing has been right for that kind of matcha product.
I think you could correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the secret ingredients is doing this amazing business through the spirit of aloha. You've already spoke so much into that, maybe directly speak into how do you personally run this company through that spirit of aloha?
The word has kind of a broad meaning, but I think the core meaning of it is kind of a divine breath. That's why I think, for the real traditional Hawaiian greeting, people will connect their faces and they'll almost like touch noses and forehead, and they share that breath. And that breath has to do with love and affection and compassion. And I think that's rooted in our culture here, where I think it extends into the business of the company is in terms of the way we collaborate and work together. And strive for an openness where we're trying to all collectively do the right thing for, making Hawaiian Host successful and in turn benefiting the community as well.
Love that. If someone's coming to the islands, maybe for the first time or a visit, obviously you're going to want to buy a box of Hawaiian Host, naturally.
Hopefully.
But in addition to that, what are some things in your experience, because you've obviously you were born here, raised here, but you've had some experience on the mainland and now back here for many years. In your experience, what are some things that people ought to maybe be aware of coming to the islands for a visit? Maybe some etiquette or just like some friendly reminders or some tips?
I would say kind of be ready to slow yourself down a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, it's in a way, it's difficult to explain because, in business, our pace is not slower and all of that. But I think when we're in the community and we're working with each other and you're interacting with others here, there's a certain kind of cordiality that you want to have and respect for the people. And I think, versus if you're coming from, say, a bigger, more dense urban environment where there's no time for that.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I mean by the time to just kind of slow down a bit and to kind of interact with people in a cordial way, Yeah. And if you do that, the people here are very friendly. Yeah. And they'll go out of their way to, help you and to guide you.
Experiencing that today, just that extension of aloha from you. So just thank you so much.
No, not at all.
Maybe if there's anything else that you would love to add on to Hawaiian Host, maybe what's next or how people can find you.
Yeah, well, we have a website.
Okay.
So you can find us at www.hawaiianhost.com.
Yeah.
So that's an easy way to find us. We do have an Instagram address, and so you can kind of follow us there. And we try to not only really emphasize our products, but also emphasize about the Hawaii experience, just like what Hawaii's best is trying to do as well. Yeah. So the more the merrier, right?
Yeah.
so you can learn about it that way. And if you come to Hawaii, you can't help but bump into it. But in other markets, you'll find us as well. So you can find us if you're traveling to Japan or at many of the airports throughout Asia. We're trying to expand it to travel retail.
Okay.
That's a big area for us. In North America, our products are seasonally in the box chocolates are seasonally in certain retailers. And then we also have some everyday product, mostly on the West Coast, that you should find.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
If you want me to name some retailers, I guess I could do that. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to read your mission just before we go. I think it's just great. And I think it really kind of sums up what we talked about here. And Hawaiian Host, your mission is to share the experience of aloha around the world through our exceptional macadamia chocolate and snack products. Draw from our proud heritage to demonstrate our commitment to our consumers, employees, communities, and support of education in Hawaii. Love that.
And that's kind of the cycle that I was talking about, really about having these brands and, communicating those brands through sharing that experience, right? Through our products and our communications with the consumers, and then bringing all of that back to our community and sharing that benefit, with our community through supporting education, and then tying that community back to the root of our brands. So, that connection with the community is a big thing for us because, it gives us a sense of purpose. So, we talk about it as employees. So, SOP typically means standard operating procedure.
Right.
That's the acronym. But our SOP is sense of purpose. And that sense of purpose, we talk about how what we do benefits the community and the kids in Hawaii. So there's wonderful work that the foundation is doing, the Takitani Foundation, to help kids who may not have an opportunity otherwise. So to help kids, for example, with college camp, they support a college camp program that will expose kids to the university life in the University of Hawaii, what college is like, how to apply for college. And so
kind of those life skills.
Exactly.
Love that.
Exactly. And so those are the kind of wonderful stories that we have. And they also have a legacy scholarship program that gives money to high-performing academic kids who are in need of financial aid in order to go to college. And there's a lot of wonderful stories about that too. Kids who could never afford to go to school otherwise, and especially to some of these really great schools. But the ones with broad reach are like to the community college level and these kind of at-risk. They also support at-risk youth and try to push them in the direction of striving or obtaining that higher level of education. And that's how I think we bootstrap the whole community. And, in Hawaii, we have we have a very low unemployment right now. It's like 2%.
Oh, wow.
And so it's difficult to find qualified people and talent. And, so it all kind of ties in, if we can help to provide more with through the foundation to provide more education opportunities for kids, and they can bring that back and help our community, and they can fulfill a lot of the employment needs that we have going forward and create better lives for themselves.
I love that passion and purpose. I'm sure for you that probably fuels a lot of what you do.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for a lot of our employees too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we all have to work for a living, and we all have to feed ourselves and our family and all of that. But there's, I think we all strive for a higher sense of purpose even beyond that. And that's what I think this kind of link to through the foundation to the community provides.
I love that. And I think kind of circling back, maybe next time you see a box of Hawaiian Host sitting on your office table or your break room or whatever, it's important to know that box of chocolate goes to support the local communities here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we say something about that on the bottom of our box. There's a story on the underside of the box But it's not shouted out. But I think that, I'd like to call your consumers' attention to that, because that's exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, Keith, thank you so much for your time and for being on today's show. This was great. I really appreciate your time, and I know it's our time is very valuable, and I appreciate that.
Well,
thank
mahalo nui to you, Bryan,
you as well.
And thanks for being here. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha. I just want to thank Keith again for his time and just his hospitality, hearing more about the story behind Hawaiian Host. And my biggest takeaway from my conversation was learning more about how Hawaiian Host is involved in the local community and is giving back in that way. And I had no idea about that. So I'm very familiar with their products and their chocolate covered macadamia nuts, but learning more about the heart behind the brand was just really great for me. And I hope it was eye-opening for you as well. So the next time you see that box of chocolates, maybe at the break room table, you can know that a portion of that purchase went to support the local communities in Hawaii. Thanks again for joining us here on Hawaii's Best. And to stay up to date on future episodes, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, be well. Aloha.
Thanks for listening to Hawaii's Best Podcast. To stay up to date on future episodes, be sure to hit the subscribe button and follow us on Instagram at hawaiis.best.